There is a serious argument that these people weren't just bad people, but that the human bloodline was literally corrupted with the fallen angel or serpent DNA, and Noah's family was the only human family left. Satan has apostles just like Christ has apostles.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Midnight Mormons. I am your host, Carden Ellis, with Kwaku L. and Brad Whitbeck. We're also joined in the studio today by none other than Isaiah, the evangelical Jewish Christian radio prophet.
We got to add in the Anti-Fragile show.
Oh, okay. Isaiah of the Anti-Fragile show. He is the, say it again for me.
Evangelical Jewish Christian radio prophet. You were the one that came up with this. Oh, yeah, you can't remember.
I know. It's like so much. It was so good.
Remember those commercials where it said, a mind is a terrible thing to waste.
Dude, I feel you. I feel you, man. Thanks. So anyway, Kwaku, you're going to have to lead us on this. I have written down fallen angels and why we need to stop worshiping them. And you are seriously hyped up on this subject. So hit us.
Yeah. So this is, I think this subject changes all of the entire way you read scripture. I think it's one of the most important things to investigate, but unfortunately the religious world doesn't do it, including our church. We barely even talk about it. But I think it is absolutely a game changer. And once you recognize the power of this, you start to realize how important humanity is, and understanding the war against sin is a lot more in this dimension than people will like to think. So I just want to start with Revelation chapter 2, verse 13.
Okay.
Right? So, this
Bringing
is...
that up.
People read this and no one thinks much of it. Okay, let me make sure I pull it up here. Oh, we're doing the book. We're doing the book, baby.
There we go, baby.
King James, baby.
Yeah.
Okay, so here, I know thy works, and where thou dwellest, even where Satan's seat is. And thou holdest fast my name, and hast not denied my faith, even in those days wherein Antipas was my faithful martyr, who was slain among you where Satan dwelleth. So when you read that, okay, you usually just think, okay, it's talking about the presence of sin, all right? In the presence of sin being responsible for the death and the murder of one of his followers. But when you actually get into it, you find something very, very, very interesting. Where he says, first, where Antipas is murdered.
Oh, yeah.
Pergamon, right? So, where Satan's seat or Satan's throne. In Pergamum.
Okay. What's Pergamum, by the way? How am I not knowing
it's a land Christ is referring to. That's not.
It's in Asia Minor.
Okay, rock on. All right.
It's an idolatrous pagan cult.
Okay.
And there's a giant statue of Zeus sitting on a throne.
Okay.
And they're worshiping Zeus on this literal chair that he's sitting down on. And so Christ references this area and then says, I know where Satan's seat is. To them, that would mean, oh, yeah, it's the landmark of Zeus, Zeus's throne. This is the only scripture where Jesus directly calls someone Satan that we recognize. Not like Peter of oh, get behind me, Satan, the metaphor. No, he's saying, no, I know where Satan's seat is. It's very, very plausible that Jesus is literally calling Zeus the devil here. He's calling Zeus Satan. And this is, I think, an important way to branch this out, because if that is so, and if there is any merit to the Book of Enoch, which there is, then we have to start asking, who were these Greek gods? Who are these Roman gods? Because they're interchangeable. The Greek, Roman, Egyptian,
Norse,
Nordic.
Yep.
Those gods are all the same. Different names, but they all have the same. I mean, Poseidon and Neptune are one.
Yeah.
Jupiter and Zeus are one.
Yeah.
The Africa Yoruba gods as well. All very similar. So in this entire part of the East, you have these gods that are similar functions, similar stories. But the one also thing that's very similar is how lustful they are. They're always trying to have sex with human women, right? Zeus is obsessed with human women. They're always coming down and grabbing these women to have sex with them, and then they give birth to these demigods. It's like all these crazy pagan legends. But the synchronicity of that with with
Which
the
is-
Book of Enoch.
Talks about a little bit, more in the Book of Enoch, but also in the Bible itself, early on in Genesis.
These fallen angels having sex with human women. Now, are you going to say something?
So, literal reading of that then?
Oh, absolutely literal reading. Now, where I get this, because a lot of people would say, well, I think that's just a bit out there because why would fallen angels do this? I mean, people think of angels as just more of like an ethereal kind of invisible feeling of like, oh, good angels, it's a good feeling. Demons are bad feeling. No, I'm saying that there's a corporeality to them and that there is an actual dimensional reality and that they're literally here on earth.
Like how Joseph Smith said in the Doctrine and Covenants that all spirit is matter. It's just finer matter.
Now, when you go to Genesis 3:15, the proto-evangelium, and unfortunately, again, we have completely decided to just milk this down and make it, you have it pulled up here?
You said Genesis 3:15, right?
Yes.
Okay, I got it right here, baby. Boom.
So God is talking in Genesis 3 to Adam and Eve and then the serpent. Okay? And he says, I will put enmity between thee and the woman. He's talking to the serpent here. And he says, and between thy seed and her seed. Pause real quick.
Wait, you're smiling. You're smiling big time. What's going on, Isaiah? Why he's like giving the whole like, oh yeah, man, yeah.
No,
You know
because
what I'm
of
saying?
one, I'm just simply enjoying this too. I wanted to,
okay, cool.
trying to refrain from interrupting.
Okay, keep going. Keep going.
Am I impressing a messianic Jew? I feel very honored.
Either that or else you're really bothering
Or
him.
he's
One of
like,
the two.
This Kwaku guy's
No,
nothing
I'm
crazy.
not bothered. I am a little impressed.
Oh, thank you. Okay. Well, okay. So it's important here. He does not say between thy people and her people, or thy tribe and her tribe, or thy descendants and her descendants, because those are all terms that could also be spiritually applied. He says seed, direct physical lineage, genetic lineage. Genetics comes from the word, Genesis, quite literally. That makes you have to ask a question here. Okay, who is the seed of the woman? And who is the seed of the serpent? Because the easy understanding of that would be, oh, seed of the woman, that's Christians. And the seed of the serpent are those who are not saved. But that doesn't quite seem to be so. Because even the seed of the woman can be saved. Again, just normal people, human beings. Adam and Eve are the first fruits of humanity. Okay, so they're the parents of humanity. And if Adam and Eve fell, then the fallen person can also be redeemed. Therefore, the seed of Adam and Eve, the genetics, has to be all people, because all people have the possibility of redemption. So then, who is the seed of the serpent? When I started reading about this, I thought I was crazy. I thought I was insane, okay? And I started to find the connection, and I went, bing, 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 blah, blah, blah. Oh my goodness! We've been missing arguably the most important context of the Bible. So you have to look at the pagan gods, and I don't know why. I'm not sure what tradition has made us not actually understand or read about the pagan gods that were actually in the context of what's going on in the Old Testament and the New Testament. For example, when you understand that that the Jews were up against the Molochian cults who would kidnap children and sacrifice them onto a fire to a human-animal hybrid god, you start recognizing, maybe the stakes were a little bit higher back then. Maybe they had to be a little more strict.
Like when Brigham Young talked about apostates, he was talking about people who literally like lied about where the pioneers were and were turning in church leaders to the Missouri militias. And like, it was a little bit different, just like that guy that went inactive in the ward. You
Right.
know what
Yeah,
I'm saying?
exactly.
Because he
Right.
read a book or something like that. Okay.
So I start looking into the gods people are worshiping during the biblical periods, and seeing how the contrast between Yahweh and these other gods. And not only did I find these other gods were lustful, were petty, were corporeal, and were violent, but I found that the earliest depictions of all of these pagan gods were serpent-like.
Wait, so you're saying that the earliest depiction that you've ever seen of Zeus was serpent-like, and you think it's a serpent?
There are quite a few.
Oh,
There are quite a few.
Wait, you're
Call
in with
them-
him
there are
on
quite,
this?
No, there are quite a few just whatever false gods that are part serpent, part animal, part human.
Yes,
Without
over and
a-
over again. Yeah.
All over.
You got Fuchi and Nuwa.
Look
of
look at Indian. Look at Hinduism.
Oh, the Nagas.
With the Naga, yeah.
The Nagas. Fuchi and Nuwa of the three sovereign ones who were half human, half snake people, half gods, and they lived in the Kunlun mountain. You got Sobek, the Egyptian god.
Yep.
And he's like
There's
Alligator.
a fox, or they have
No,
one's a part dog, I think, in Egyptian.
They do, but it was he was weird
Anubis.
because he was also the god of semen, and they would
Yep.
perform sex ceremonies. Again, there's that sex narrative. It's all over the ancient world, and so you start recognizing, okay, well, you have this idea of you have Christ calling Zeus the devil. You have a very interesting similarity between these Roman gods, and also being very similar, having similar personality traits to the fallen angels described in the book of Enoch and in the book of Genesis. And then you also have the seed of the serpent outline, and the seed of the serpent seems to also be similar to these pagan gods who rule the land, who are serpent-like and also fit the same profiles as these fallen angels, and also seem to fit the profiles of these Roman gods. I'm thinking that they're all one and the same. I'm thinking that these fake gods that people are worshiping are not fake, that they're real. Now, they're not God, but these are fallen angels with godlike powers.
Now, when
that
you say
make
they're
the-
real, are you saying just like in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, we really believe there's a materialism to the body of Christ and that the resurrection is real, that when in Jeremiah it says, rise up dry bones, that we will actually physically rise up dry bones and then be just as fleshy as we are now and everything.
The dead The dead are coming up first.
Yeah. So do you think that there's actually a real life, just as touchable as me, fake serpent god Zeus with godlike powers out there subverting the hearts and lives of men?
Yes.
All right, rock on this
So-
podcast. He's got a lot of cool-
I'm going to come in for a second. I want to
Yeah.
explain why I was smiling, and I had to remind myself if I looked like I was looking down, it's because I actually went to DuckDuckGo.
Okay.
Because I wanted to remind and make sure I was going to speak correctly. The reason why I started smiling is when Kwaku said Genesis 3:15. Because if you go back to the red verse King James version, there's special, I don't say special Bibles, but a lot of Bibles are marked with stars. Some are filled in and some are empty.
For the scribal insertions.
So the empty star is the star that says, hey, this is a verse that is predicting the coming of the Messiah. And I'm just simply going to say that here because Genesis 3:15 is the very, very first verse in the Old Testament marked as a verse that predicts the coming of the Messiah.
Oh, interesting.
And it goes back a little bit to what Kwaku's saying. Because the verse right before this, God's starting to blast the serpent already. And in this verse, he's really blasting the woman. And let me go back up. The verse before it, he's blasting Satan, the serpent. This verse, he's blasting the woman and the serpent, saying, your seed is going to have enemies. What does that mean? Your seed's going to have, I'm going to put enmity between the two of you, but also I'm going to put it between your seed. And when you look later, he's talking about starting off that the offspring, the serpent, is going to include fallen angels. The offset of the offspring of the woman are not going to follow me. Hence, when Jesus talks about Israel, and by the way, Jesus calls in Revelation, talks about the synagogue of Satan, calls Jews. Jesus called Jews Satan. He did it with the same thing, like with Sodom and Gomorrah. It wasn't just these other ones too. And what God's saying here is that down the road, there are going to be these covenants that if you don't follow them, my son's coming. Because if you read going back really quickly in chapter 1, and I need to find it. Maybe it was chapter 2, excuse me. So in Genesis chapter 1, verse 26, and God said, let us make man in our image and our likeness. Remember, say that one more time. And God said, let us make man in our image after our likeness. Okay, without a doubt, Jesus is already sitting next to his Father. Now the question is, are the fallen angels hanging out there too? Does God have one son?
Yes.
Well, sons of God.
The Book of Abraham makes that pretty clear.
Oh, yeah.
And so I love that you bring that up. Now, I want to dial us back just a little bit because I think this means something maybe a little bit different. I can see the interpretation that you're putting forward making sense. But I think in Genesis 3:15, I'll put enmity between thee and the woman, and between thy seed and her seed. It shall bruise thy head, and thou shalt bruise his heel. I don't know that this is referring to her entire progeny. I think this is specifically referencing Christ, and that the seed of the serpent is the Antichrist. And
both.
It is.
No,
It's
absolutely both.
And I think that it has more to do with the way that, just like when in Genesis 17, you have Abraham get his covenant that he will have seed as numerous as the sands of the sea. I don't think that's all physical and directly like lineal, like you're talking about. Like it's not all genetic. I think that it has a lot to do with adoption. And that when you have Christ calling out the Jews for not being the seed of Abraham anymore, right? Like I might as well make this rock the seed of Abraham, right? Because they are not doing the works of Abraham. You're the seed of whose works you do. And so that's the way that I think I
totally
read
agree
this
with
verse
that.
And I think I agree with a lot of what you're saying too, because Adam and Eve were not physically blind. A lot of people think that that they didn't have eyes when they said they couldn't see. It was the free will. It was God didn't want them to see their own wisdom. Because this all happened. He would try through Abraham and Moses to still he'd come to give me your heart, but they didn't listen. So he had all these other tools up here. He already knew they weren't going to listen to him. And so Jesus is already sitting up there. They're not going to give me my heart. They're going to continue to sin. They're going to continue to act like fallen angels.
So I think
does that make sense?
Yeah.
No, so Brad, I agree with that. What I'm also saying is, once you put in the ancient context of the gods that people are worshiping immediately after this, it seems as if the seed of the serpent attacked very, very fast. Mm-hmm. Right? And so, for example, the land of Canaan, they were described as giants and monsters living in that land.
The size of Goliath.
Exactly. And so you read the Bible, you go, oh my gosh, they were going and they were murdering them all. That's horrible. Well, if we're talking about non-human monsters that eat people, maybe we should. When you understand the ancient idea of the flood.
Well, because isn't that basically? I'll just chime in here, but oftentimes when I get in these debates with wokesters that are very anti-Christian, they're never anti-Islam, they're never anti anything else, but they're very anti-Christian, and they always say, "Oh, well, the Bible justifies slavery, and Paul said slavery." No, he was begging for the life of a slave in an empire that sanctioned it. That's far different than saying it's okay. Well, yeah, but it also justified genocide because Aaron went in and he slew all the people in Canaan. Yeah. If you read what Aaron's spies saw, they said it was a land full of giants that were all descendants of these fallen angels that created the Nephilim, whose final giant master's thesis project was Goliath, who ended up fighting David years later. So unless you literally believe in what you consider mythological and fictional, half angelic, 8-foot tall monster men, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
then you can't call it genocide. It's monster-cide.
And if you don't believe in the monster part, then why would you believe in the genocide part?
But they did believe in the monster part because one of the
the wokesters don't believe in the monster part.
Well, I don't. I must have missed the word wokester.
Yeah.
I sort of tuned myself out to ever hearing that word.
Yeah.
But if you look at the one false god or whatever you want to call him, some people say it's a false prophet that's really prevalently mentioned in the Old Testament. It's Balaam. Balaam. Balaam.
Baal, you mean?
And there was a huge debate over what part of that. He was part human and part probably dog, I think is why I mentioned that earlier, and I'm looking it up. They say he was a Canaanite and Phoenician deity and the son of the chief god El, E-L. And he also took the shape of a bull or ram. and had associations with fertility. Once again, going right back to Genesis 3. 15.
So I mean, there is a monstrous context to this. There were monsters living in this land.
Because the way that I see it, I see those fallen angels of Zeus and Hera and all of these Greek gods, not as human hybrids mixed with anything, but just as angels who fell, right? That's the way that I view it.
Well, no, yeah. So what I'm saying is, the level it goes, the fallen angels are Satan's commanders, right? So I caution ever getting into this or ever reading into demonology. But if you ever do, you find out that Satan has apostles just like Christ has apostles, right? And he has leaders in hell. And some of their names.
That's where we get Beelzebub and everything.
And Wormwood. Their names are really just written in the Bible.
Get all the demons that are demons.
Yes, and those are the fallen angels.
Mm-hmm.
Now, their creations underneath them, the Nephilim. Okay, these monsters, these giants. These are creations by fallen angels to corrupt the human bloodline. So, why would you want to corrupt the human bloodline? To corrupt the seed of Eve. Because who will be born of the seed of Eve?
Jesus.
Exactly. And so this is another thing. This is another ancient context or belief of the flood of Noah. It wasn't just that people were mean.
Oh.
And that Noah was just...
And when Enoch says they were partaking of the blood of animals, you don't think that meant they were eating meat. You think human-animal hybrid stuff?
I think that...
You realize that's all going on right now.
Oh, I know about the pig ape hybrids and the giant
scientific experiments, pigs, mice.
It's weird.
Yeah.
Yes. So
I remember as a kid when I was doing kind of a deep doctrinal dive with my dad and another guy who was a biblical scholar, he was saying like there's serious academic thought back then. We're talking early 90s, before the internet, before any of these revelations that people used to call conspiracy theories came to light. He was writing a thesis on how he thought that it was forcible genetic breeding that was what God was angry at. And he was using apocryphal texts. He was using all kinds of archaeological evidence. And he was suggesting that maybe they were selectively breeding their own kind and their own people to try and get certain traits, which sounds like a total like Aryan like dream from like the late 1930s. You know what I'm saying? But like it was actually like
eugenics,
a real
right?
thing. Yeah. And that's what angered God was it's like, I am the God. They are created in my image, not yours.
It's not his image.
If you're, let's say you're some goat shepherd, okay?
Yeah.
And there's an army coming, and you have to fight them. And there's a man who comes into town with a creepy aura, but he has magic, and he says, "I was taught by the fallen angels, and I can create a warrior. Do you want to send in Jason or Methugalach the man bear to fight in your war?" You're gonna pick Methugalach the man bear, aren't you?
I'm taking David in a slingshot.
Yeah, exactly. If you know the
you
story.
go.
So we have the flood of Noah. Yeah. There is a serious argument that these people weren't just bad people, but that the human bloodline was literally corrupted with the fallen angel or serpent DNA, and Noah's family was the only human family left, which is why the world was flooded.
It's the only one God maybe wanted to save because he thought it was the best one, going back to what I said earlier. He still was trying to put his hope and faith in Noah. Noah was still the first choice, even though he knew he'd ultimately fail too.
Well, yes, but the question people have is, I mean, we have been so wicked. How come we don't have 1 million floods? And one ancient thought is God was not getting rid of just people. He was getting rid of people who were not fully human.
Yeah.
Imagine Uncanny Valley to the creepiest extent possible, right? Let's wipe them all out. You right now, this is your job. 2 of every animal
that I created, that he created.
Right.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's a interesting distinction to point out.
Now, I know.
And that would explain why there hasn't been another flood, because once you wipe out all of the bad DNA of the fallen angels that have corrupted the bloodline, even though there's been equivalent sin, okay, and our decisions and moral choices have been bad, they've been made within the context of bodies that are after his own image. That's what you're suggesting, Quaker?
Well, except for when you get into like you still have the giants in the land at the time of the Israelites getting there, right? So
was that pre-flood or
something happened.
post-flood?
That
I thought
was-
didn't the flood wipe out all the giants?
no. So there were giants in the land at the time of Joshua getting there, right? So
Yes,
that's
they're still
post.
there.
Wait, so
Flood.
what? Were they just so tall that their head was above
It,
the water?
it goes back to what
and they
Quaker's
just like
saying.
they
I
just
have a-
survived.
Did
like,
God? I think maybe if I'm hearing him right, did God create? God, if God created them, they were on that ark.
Oh no, what I'm
Is
saying.
that what you? Okay, I don't know if
No, so
wait,
they
so
were-
you're
no,
saying
the-
okay? So you're saying
That's
the giants,
reintroduction of.
God floods the world to get rid of these giants
Yeah.
and get rid of these monsters.
Okay, but it didn't work because there were giants after the flood.
Well, here's what I'm saying. Okay, there's a couple things. So one, you're only going to get rid of the monsters that are on land. There were also, the pagan myths have water monsters as well. Well, a flood ain't going to kill
the
them.
flood's not going to kill
Flood
them.
ain't killing a mermaid. She's going to her
okay.
paradise, okay?
Okay,
However, what's important about
so it was a
Mount-
monster then.
what is important about Mount Olympus? It's an incredibly high mountain that the gods would go into for safety. I would not be surprised, and that makes Mount Olympus is very, very important in these pagan myths. Why would gods need to go hide anywhere for safety? I believe that it's totally plausible that some of these monsters hid in the Mount Olympus to escape the flood, to escape God's wrath. Right? There always is going to have to be sin on earth. There's going to always have to be the seed of the serpent on earth. I mean, that's the whole ballgame. I think that plays a big role in it. And
So
I think,
God failed in his execution of trying to cleanse the earth.
I don't. We have we have a very human understanding of the word fail. He absolutely succeeded. The fact that we're not all part fallen angel right now is pretty a miracle, considering the fact that the people that were walking around back then, he got rid of them enough for the actual souls, the spirits of God, to come into the human bodies. And here's where I think when you said, you know how they're doing this now, you talked about that. I used to think this was just a metaphor. It's like, oh, he's trying to tell a story. No, I think it's very plausible. And Revelation chapter 9, right?
Okay.
John describes, it's like an asteroid that falls into the earth and creates this giant hole. Yep. And then the scorpion lion monster comes out with like locusts and like teeth and the hair of a woman, and if it stings you, then it like knocks you down for 5 months. It's just like a crazy, weird monster.
Okay, cool.
But he's describing it, and everyone's like, okay, now, what does it mean? This must mean this, and this must mean this. Well, what we know right now is that a lot of these Asian countries have been experimenting with animal hybrids. We were taught it was impossible to mix two animals from completely different families together, but they did it with the pig ape. Yep. This is mainstream news. It's a Japanese pig-ape hybrid, and it lived. That's just what they told us. Okay, so what are they not telling us, right? If you can think about this. If you can successfully create a human-animal hybrid, what would that mean? Well, one, what would that mean for factories, for these sweatshops?
That you're not abusing human labor and it's not a human rights violation.
Or an animal rights violation.
Or an animal rights violation either.
Yeah.
Oh,
if you can't replace it with a robot, second best choice over here.
You know how they have lab rats?
Yeah.
What if you have lab human rats?
They're trying that too, by the way.
Well, I know that they
man.
could successfully graft an ear onto the back of a mouse, and that the ear
You think
survived.
that was the end game?
and-
That's just the training wheel.
We're learning right there.
So what? Right? So you have this beast in Revelation 9, this creepy monster being described. Well, what if this creepy monster is
not symbolic but real? That it actually had smoke from locusts. So Rita, okay, keep going.
and here's now the thing. We know that science and magic are one and the same family. We know that chemistry comes from alchemy.
Look at the statue they just put out in front of us at the UN.
The beast of Revelation.
Oh, that one's
That's really
freaking weird.
So
Yeah, because
Wait, what? How do I not know these things? Now I got to look them
Yeah,
up.
you look it up.
The beast of Revelation, the chimera described in
Because as you're looking it up, I'm like, there are times when I'm like, this is crazy. And then I see,
You see it.
the freaking statue they put up in front of the UN, and I'm like, why on earth would you do that? Like, why?
Okay, so here it is right here.
And I've been thinking this for years, going back to what we're talking about. I've not, and maybe Carden knows this, I have not been a fan of Big Pharma for I can't remember how many years it's been now. But why do all drug tests start off on animals for the most part? Why do they test them on mice and things like that?
Oh my gosh. Look at that.
There it is.
The United Nations has placed a giant statue in New York.
It's
that
almost
seems
to the T
resemble
what Daniel
the
described.
end times beast from the New Testament book of Revelation. Oh, either that or else, do you know what else this really looks like? There's one thing that really looks like. I would call it, I don't want to ruin it. But do you remember that movie, Coco? And the flying leopard in Coco? Maybe it's just because I have a bunch of kids that I actually recognize this. But in that movie, Coco, there's this big, giant, beautiful flying leopard.
That doesn't surprise me. That doesn't surprise me one bit. They start with kids. I thought we were going to talk about the are we going to go shift into the Great Reset? Go on.
So here's the flying leopard of
there
Coco.
You go. Yeah,
it's a flying leopard in Coco.
They're twins,
and I think that's kind of what they're going for, right? Is they're like doing this multicultural.
No, it actually represents all the countries.
Yeah.
Some countries and birds. No, we know what it is.
Bill Cosby showed up.
But it like very clearly, it very clearly fits the descriptions in the scriptures. And I can't believe that they wouldn't notice that.
Well, here's my question. If they were being taught how to create these monsters by fallen angels back in the day, then who's teaching them now?
Exactly. That's a whole nother podcast, by the way. I was ready to talk about education and the Great Reset and how it starts and ends with children, but that's a whole nother podcast.
People think it's nuts, but I don't. People who believe in the Book of Mormon, we should be expecting this stuff to happen. Moroni 9 is very clear. We're going to be living in a supernatural. We're already living in a supernatural, fantastical world. What's already happened the past 2 years has made everyone go, okay, the world is crazy. There is corruption, and
okay. Now, can I offer some
UFO footage that were like, what the heck?
Jesus was very clear in the old.
Like,
Jesus was very clear about about a children's special place with him. Very clear in the New Testament about what children meant to Jesus. He knew they were the future, and he knew that was who they would go after.
Okay, can I offer some just what some would consider rational pushback?
Yes.
All right.
Please.
I'm reading further into this article that the UN recently tweeted a photo of the statue, okay, and that a guardian for international peace and security sits in the visitors' plaza outside the UN. That the guardian is a fusion of jaguar and eagle donated by the government of Oaxaca, Mexico. I think it's so fitting that I had previously said that this looks like the flying leopard in Coco.
Guardian my tuchus.
Okay, because, I mean, when you look at this, it is obviously...
You don't think they're going to have an alibi, Cardin? What do you think? Oh, we had no idea it looked like the... Of course. Mexico? You mean the Aztecs? Who the hell were they sacrificing kids to?
Okay,
you don't think they
when they worshiped this god, they were doing unspeakably bad things.
Do you think it was just a coincidence that it went in front of the UN, one of the modern day structures of Satan?
Snap. He just went farther than you did, brother. Quaker.
Look, all I'm saying is...
Is this why you and Isaiah get along so well?
I think so.
Here's the thing. And this is why right now, members of the church are mad at the prophet in the first presidency. This is why.
I guarantee you this is not why. And I don't think that there is a ton of people out there who are angry with the prophet.
Absolutely. Have you been reading what's online? People are livid. It's true.
No, there's a subset that's
I think
vocal.
it's bigger than... Dude, like half the wards in Arizona. Those little Arizona essential oils Mormon moms are like, I am not happy with the prophet right now.
Yeah, but it's not because of this jaguar in front of the UN.
Our church is freaking... being buddy with the UN and Big Pharma. That's what I'm saying.
Look, read.
Don't look at me. I don't have anything to add here. I'm not going to repeat. Well, even what he's saying about Big Pharma. I don't have to add on to something I already agree with.
I'm just saying.
Read through Helaman, and when you look into what I don't have any qualms with the church working with the UN on good projects. But we can maybe do an episode on it at some point.
Keep your friends close and your enemies closer.
Sure. Yeah.
Amen.
If that's how you have to look at it.
That's what I'm saying. I just know. But like stuff like this, look, if we believe in the Bible, we believe these these things are going to happen. Well, then, you know what? When they're happening, we should not go, is this really happening? Yes, it's happening. They built a freaking animal hybrid demon monster in front of the UN, and people are like, I wonder if this is just a cartoon. No, this is the real deal.
This is on purpose, folks. It's not a coincidence.
Or what if it's just kind of the festive modern manifestation?
Then
of a
why
gift
wouldn't they
from
put
Mexico?
Dora? Huh? Backpack. They can put something like that as easy
Why
as
don't
possible.
they put a character
Why would
from
they-
the Veggie Tales on TBN? It's a Christian it's a Christian children's show.
Okay.
Why? Why wouldn't they just? Why, Carden? Carden. Come on,
What?
come on, man. Nobody. Here's the thing. This is
Or
what's
maybe
scary.
they're just this is okay. Just like I think our church right now is having a lot of problems because of incompetence of Gen Xers and Boomers who are about to retire in the church office building, who are still using a framework of their formative years where they think, oh, well, these government organizations, they're all competent and good and staffed by people that have the best interests of America at heart. No, actually, they're staffed by the now nephews of those people. And they grew up knowing they were going to have this job, and they're wildly corrupt, and worst off, they're wildly incompetent. And if you actually follow their orders, it's to your detriment, not towards your goodness. Okay. So just like we've got some problems with some of these bureaucrats in our church, the UN's got problems, America's got problems, all these governments got problems with these generations that grew up in extreme post-war wealth and are making now bogus, stupid decisions. And so these pandering people, these slacktivists, as we call them, the same bonehead that has to make sure that everything is changed in, June in America for Gay Pride Month, but let's not touch the international logos, because that might cause a storm over there. They're the same ones that are like, oh, well, we really need to do something like, like Mexican-y. So like, what's like Mexican-y? Oh, just colorful Jaguar. Go for it. Go. Wings, Jaguar, go. Like, these people have no cultural understanding. They just see colorful Jaguar statue and think, oh, good. It's
not cultural understanding. They have no biblical understanding. They have no godly understanding to know what it looks like.
Okay, so how can we attribute to malice that which could be attributed to incompetence and ignorance? Which I think they are. I think these bureaucrats that say yes to these things are more incompetent and ignorant than they are malicious.
That's Carden, that's the more
Is that the
comforting
psyop?
view.
Is that the psyop?
That's the more comforting view to take because you don't want to awaken to a sense of your awful situation. You don't want to live in a world.
I'm keenly aware of my awful situation.
You don't want to realize that almost 2 years into wearing masks, people.
Carden, you live in LA. They've destroyed LA.
No.
Everybody's moving out of here. And you're like,
dude, no,
it's because
I'm
they're
not.
incompetent. No, it's because they're evil. It's because they're evil.
Okay. That's actually a much, I think I'm going to start believing.
Jesus literally says over and over, hey, guess what? It's me versus the world. And then when the world gets together, hi, we're the United Nations. We represent the world.
Oh, dude, I'm not here to defend the United Nations. I believe in independent sovereignty.
I got to call you out. You sort of are right now.
This is our literal headquarters of worldliness. And let's put the beast of Revelation, and you're out here going, well, maybe they just thought it was a nice cartoon.
I'm just saying.
And like the number of Nazi war criminals who were put into the UN at the
don't get me
beginning.
started on NASA. NASA, dude.
No,
I think we got our third. I think we're already planning our third podcast.
Also, the Catholic Church is still evil. Sorry.
All I'm saying is that sometimes I think statues like this going up could be definitely a product of incompetent and ignorant bureaucrats who have a lot of money on their hands because we live in a very institutionalized, wealthy post-war America. And sometimes
you keep thinking that.
Hold on. Sometimes hyper-focusing on things such as the oddly mythical Jaguar-esque looking sculpture in front of the UN that kind of matches the beast in Coco being a revelation of the monster in Revelation, that actually distracts from the fact that they just shut us down for 2 years and we're able to effectively stop the worship of Christians through mask mandates.
Wait,
they did not stop the worship of Christians.
In California, they did.
You were
in California,
that
they
sculpture
did.
by using an AI Hollywood creation. You're using Hollywood to downplay the UN? What are you, crazy?
No, I'm saying, hold on, let me finish my sentence. I'm saying here that I think that statue did nothing. That statue did nothing. Bureaucratic incompetence in California, stopping Christians from worshiping. That statue didn't stop a single Christian from worshiping. But let me tell you, Gavin Newsom did.
Imagine if John had said that
what-
to Jesus in
Oh,
Revelation
my favorite-
2:13.
my favorite
I
person.
know where Satan's seat is. It's just a statue. It's just some incompetent
And
Pharisees.
guess what the
That's
statue
all it is.
represents?
Here you go. This is Jim Jones at his Kool-Aid stand for you, Carden.
Oh, now I'm the one drinking the Kool-Aid.
So Carden,
I'm not saying all
it's what
these
the statue
people-
represents. Whether it got there through incompetence or
Yeah.
wickedness.
Why do you think the pagans built them so much? Oh no, we're just building the statue. That's it. Oh no, we're just building it. It looks nice. Oh no, what's that kid doing there? Oh, nothing. What do you got those coals in that fire? Oh no, we want dinner. Why are you putting that kid on the coals? Too late. We're already here. That's literally how it goes. Okay. Also, look, I'm not saying every old guy. There's probably a bunch of old people in there who are just like, oh, I worked for the UN. It's great. What is this? Cool. It's artistic. Did the children make it nice? But there's like 3 people who are like, yeah, put that statue there. They know. I'm not saying everyone there.
That's
but there are
exactly
people
what's
there that
happening.
know.
Colossians 2:8. Beware lest any man spoil you through philosophy and vain deceit. After
Are
the
you saying
tradition-
I am deceived by philosophy and vain deceit?
Yes.
Cardin, all I'm saying is you're going to be
By
stuck.
the way, I love how both you
Whether
and
you're-
Kwaku don't move your face, and you're like, yes.
I don't break eye contact.
It's hilarious.
You're like, I'm gonna say that you're the worst person on earth, and you're doing everything wrong.
Wait, are you saying I'm the worst person who's ever doing everything wrong? You're literally going to be,
Yes.
Cardin, you're going to be in the freaking trapped in the metaverse as a CGI cartoon. You're like, hear me out. What if this isn't as bad as we say?
See, Carden, I have no idea how this ended up being you getting labeled with this today and not me.
No, I was like, where on earth is this going? I think
it's because I didn't question the snake people as much. But
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Look at the 2 states. You touched on Gavin Newsom. 2 states, California and New York. Rain, floods. It is clear throughout this book that our land will be harmed. And the 2 states that seem to lead the most anti-godly lives or push the most anti-godly lifestyle, California and New York.
So now you're trying to segue into that other podcast we said we weren't going to do, but maybe we are
After
going
your
to do.
testimony cometh the testimony of thunderings and the testimony of lightning and the testimony of earthquakes. Dr.
See, he wants to talk about what's the church's political party. That's what he wants. To do.
Yeah,
You know what I'm
that would
saying?
be fun.
He's
That
trying
would
to go
good
for
because
that.
I did start that on one of my old shows.
Oh my gosh. Okay, look, we got to end this one. This is nuts. This
yes,
one is
this
nuts.
one is nuts. This
Are
one's
you
full
done?
there.
Are you done now?
For many